Welcome to Developing AI Policy. AI tools are already changing how we work, and they will continue to do so for years. Over the next few years, we're likely going to see AI used in ways we've never imagined and are not anticipating, and it is your job to guide your organization in its AI use. So how can we create effective AI policies? This course empowers you to make informed decisions and confidently create an AI policy that matches your organizational goals. In this mini-course, you learn the fundamentals of putting together an AI policy. We will also discuss existing regulations that can apply to AI, as well as real-world case studies of how different fields have adapted their AI policies. This course is intended for those who might make decisions about how AI tools should be used or developed for a company, group, or institution, and want to learn more about guiding your organization in using AI responsibly. The course will provide a brief introduction and is intended to point out ways of considering AI use. It is not intended as legal or ethical advice. Many use cases will require special consideration. The course will consist of readings, optional practice quizzes, and optional discussions to help you build your understanding. There will be one required graded quiz. In this mini-course, we will discuss why you need an AI policy, what the elements of an AI policy are, how to build an AI advisory team, considerations for building an AI policy based on real-life experience, the state of existing AI laws and regulations, other laws that might apply to AI products and use, and real-world case studies on how AI regulations are continually evolving in different fields. The course was written by Elizabeth Humphreys, a postdoctoral fellow at the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Center Data Science Lab, with assistance from other members of the Data Science Lab including Candice Sovanen, Jenny Weddle, Chris Lowe, Monica Gerber, Amy Pagirgan, Eva Hoffman, Carrie Wright, and Jeff Leake. The views in this course are not necessarily reflective of the AI policy at Fred Hutch. We created this video using an application from our lab that relies on open source AI tools created by others to convert text to speech. Please check it out at loqui.fredhutch.org if you are interested. We hope that our course will help you as you develop your own AI policy. Artificial intelligence tools are already changing how we work, and they will continue to do so for years. Creating an AI policy for your organization can help your employees confidently navigate this new work landscape. Except where otherwise indicated, the contents of this video are available for use under CC BY 40. The thoughts and ideas presented in this course are not to be substituted for legal or ethical advice. They are only meant to give you a starting point for gathering information about AI policy and regulations to consider. Big technological shifts always trigger a period of explosive growth where the technology and what's possible changes incredibly quickly. We're in that stage right now with AI systems. Everyone is curious, scared, and interested in AI. ChatGPT accumulated 100 million users in 2 months, which is faster than many other major apps. The future workforce is using AI and bans will not be effective. Over 40% of university students use ChatGPT for coursework. 39% of prospective students say they wouldn't consider going to a college that banned ChatGPT and other LIMs. Each month regularly brings new opportunities and surprises, many of which we can't anticipate and require organizations to adapt quickly. Things are changing in ways both big and small, making new capabilities feasible while also bringing to light new and unique concerns. However, adopting this new technology at the right time and in a way that minimizes mistakes and bad outcomes can make great things happen for your organization. It's a bit like catching the tail of a rocket ship that's just being launched, but catching it in a way that doesn't burn you to a crisp. 30 or so years ago, we had a similar technological shift with the advent of the internet. At the time, using the internet for common, everyday tasks was a big deal, and there was fear about how it would change how we work. Now, we have accepted the internet as a way of life, and it's a normal experience to look things up on Google or shop on the internet. In 30 years, AI systems will be the same. Employees will use AI, and this will make them more effective. AI policies can balance their use with safety and security measures. Let's talk about what elements an AI policy might have. Except where otherwise indicated, the contents of this video are available for use under CC BY 40. The thoughts and ideas presented in this course are not to be substituted for legal or ethical advice. They are only meant to give you a starting point for gathering information about AI policy and regulations to consider. A good AI policy should be a living document that evolves as your company adapts to AI use. As AI tools advance, so should the policy surrounding them. It should provide clear guidance and frameworks for developing, deploying, and using AI systems in a responsible and ethical manner. Having a policy in plan can provide an extra level of security for your organization and employees. When writing an AI policy, you might consider whether asynchronous collaboration versus synchronous collaboration is right for you. With an asynchronous approach, people write their individual sections of a document by a deadline, after which the full policy is polished and edited. With a synchronous approach, an organization might convene a set of meetings with experts over a length of time to work on the document together. There are benefits and drawbacks to both approaches, and you will know which best fits your organization's needs. So WHAT is involved in a good AI policy document. In general, a policy might discuss the following topics: purpose and scope. In this section, you might define what your organization's goals and plans for AI use, as well as what types of AI systems the policy will cover. This section might also contain definitions of specific terms, like what your organization considers AI or generative AI. Purpose and scope section can ensure everyone is aligned and avoid ambiguity. Values and principles. This section states how your organization's core values and principles will guide your use and development of AI tools. Some possible principles might be fairness, transparency, accountability, safety, or privacy. Governance and oversight. You may want to establish a clear governance strategy for overseeing AI initiatives. This includes the roles of those involved in decision-making as well as their responsibilities. Data management and privacy. This section outlines data governance practices that ensure data quality, security, and responsible use in AI systems. You should make sure your guidelines are compliant with relevant data privacy regulations like GDPR, CCPA, and other industry-specific regulations. Fairness and non-discrimination. In this section, you can lay out how you might monitor and audit AI systems for possible bias. This section can also include guidelines for developing or deploying AI in ways to avoid perpetuating or exacerbating bias or discrimination based on protected characteristics. Risk management, safety, and oversight. A section like this might lay out robust testing procedures to monitor, identify, and mitigate potential risks associated with AI systems, including security vulnerabilities, safety hazards, and unintended consequences. It can also identify ways to ensure oversight and accountability for AI systems, ensuring humans remain ultimately responsible for AI-driven decisions. Education and training. This section describes how your organization will provide training and education programs on AI systems, on responsible AI development, deployment, and use. You can also detail how these training modules will be created and what topics are necessary for different groups of employees. Feedback and review. In this section, you can establish a mechanism for regularly reviewing and updating the AI policy as technology and best practices evolve. You may also want to implement procedures for employees to give feedback about AI issues or concerns within your organization. One of your first tasks when creating an AI policy is to build a team to advise you. Let's discuss who you might recruit. Except where otherwise indicated, the contents of this video are available for use under CC BY 40. The thoughts and ideas presented in this course are not to be substituted for legal or ethical advice. They are only meant to give you a starting point for gathering information about AI policy and regulations to consider. AI policy is a teamwork endeavor. Experts from many different fields need to come together to bring the latest updates. As someone in charge of making sure your organization is using AI wisely and properly, staying up to date on the laws, regulations, and computational resources is vital. It's also something that is really difficult to do alone. Building a team of individuals that can help you confidently navigate the evolving landscape should be one of your top priorities as a leader. There are multiple possible roles that you could fill, depending on your organization's AI needs and uses. Having representation from technical, policy, and social science backgrounds helps ensure a multidisciplinary, holistic approach to building and overseeing responsible AI. This list is a starting point for you when deciding what sort of roles you need for your own team, and is not written in any particular order. This is not an exhaustive list of all possible experts that you can gather. You should consult with your legal counsel, board members, and other oversight staff in order to properly address your own specialized needs. Legal counsel that understands AI and the nuances of the rapidly changing laws can advise on regulations relevant to your organization. Policy and governance analysts can research and draft internal policies on transparency, auditability, harm mitigation, and appropriate AI uses. They can also advise and assist with compliance. Data protection officers, who can aid with implementing privacy by design principles and handling personally identifiable information legally and securely, are especially important for organizations that deal with personal data. Ethicists are experts who can provide guidance on ethical issues and review systems for potential biases, risks, and policy compliance. Trainers and educators can create and run programs aimed at keeping all employees aware of responsibilities in developing and using AI respectfully and in compliance with AI policies and regulations. Oversight committee members are experts who review, research studies both before a study begins and while it is ongoing. Their job is to make sure researchers are protecting the welfare, rights, and privacy of research subjects. Oversight committees like institutional review boards are especially important for organizations involved in any human research that uses AI. Technical experts understand how to design, build, and deploy AI models. They can also offer advice on the algorithms, data, and computational infrastructure your organization might need. They might be AI or machine learning experts, data scientists, DevOps engineers, cloud architects, or systems engineers. Information security architects are vital for identifying and mitigating the security risks associated with AI systems. They can provide advice on data privacy measures, security weak points, and incident response plans. The specific roles and their required skill sets will vary depending on the size, industry, and maturity of the company. Having a balanced team with both technical and strategic expertise is key to successfully implementing AI policies in your organization. Remember, effective communication and collaboration between these roles is crucial for a successful AI implementation. Let's discuss some considerations for creating an AI policy. Except where otherwise indicated, the contents of this video are available for use under CC BY 40. The thoughts and ideas presented in this course are not to be substituted for legal or ethical advice. They are only meant to give you a starting point for gathering information about AI policy and regulations to consider. How you create an AI policy, as well as what you cover in it, is going to be highly dependent on what your organization's needs are. Unfortunately, there is no one-size-fits-all approach to AI policies, governance, and training. However, we can offer some considerations based on our experiences creating and implementing policies. It is probably not enough to build only an AI policy. Building an AI support system that makes it possible for the people in your organization to adopt AI in safe and ethical ways is also important. An AI policy support system might include a governance plan describing how new AI use cases will be reviewed and guidance for implementation provided, a clear understanding of the necessary components of your infrastructure to plan to use AI tools on, and training materials that include specific best practices for different types of AI tools and use cases. Thinking about your AI policy as just the beginning, not the entire thing, can be a way to protect your employees, your organization, and the people you serve. AI systems are being integrated into every aspect of the work environment. Sometimes these tools are very obvious, such as when an AI tool is applied to your data to do predictive work. Other times they are less obvious, such as when they are integrated into common desktop software as co-pilots or autofill. You likely need a lot of different people with different perspectives to weigh in to get even close to what you want in terms of a comprehensive AI policy. Limiting policy and governance plan creation to just the Chief Data Officer's office or the IT department or the legal department might make things faster, but the trade-off is that you are likely only covering a fraction of what you need. At minimum, most organizations probably need representatives from legal, compliance and governance, IT, offices of diversity, equity, inclusion, ethical review, and training. Creating a meaningful policy and getting the necessary supports put in place is easier when you have people with varied and broad expertise creating the policy from the beginning. The speed at which AI technology is changing is fast enough that creating useful guidelines around its use is difficult. An AI policy requires you to get a diverse set of opinions together and make it cohesive and coherent, and that takes time. The last thing you want to do is create a policy that no longer applies in 3 months when AI systems have changed again. One possible approach is to think of your AI policy as an ongoing living document as opposed to a one-time effort. Another way includes creating both an AI policy and an AI best practices document, where the policy changes infrequently, while the best practices evolves more quickly. For example, the policy document might say something like you should use infrastructure that matches current best practices. This allows you to create a policy that is still useful over time as your organization learns what AI practices and infrastructure is best for it. This still requires you to communicate frequently with your employees on the state of the best practices for AI use. However, the best practices can be tailored to fit specific departments and change as those departments need it to do so. This also allows an organization to communicate to specific departments and employees who might be affected by an update to their best practices guidelines. However you choose to do it, systematize the process of creating your policy so that you can easily update it when necessary. Good AI policies are most effective when they are easy for people to follow. This can be particularly challenging in periods of explosive technological growth like we're experiencing now with AI. What is possible with AI and how to safely and ethically use AI is changing quickly, making it a challenge for people to always know how to comply with an AI policy. This is an opportunity to make your AI governance plan include specific points about communication, training and guidance so users have regular updates from the governance group that enable them to use AI tools ethically and securely. In situations like these, one way to approach training is to focus on major points people should consider, clearly outline the steps people can take to do the right thing, and identify who people can approach when they have questions. Many people may not solidly know the answers to all questions, but the right people can help you find the answer. Training people how to loop in the proper people and to ask for help from the very beginning might save them stress later. Let's talk about some of the current regulations for AI creation and use. Except where otherwise indicated, the contents of this video are available for use under CC BY 40. The thoughts and ideas presented in this course are not to be substituted for legal or ethical advice. They are only meant to give you a starting point for gathering information about AI policy and regulations to consider. A good AI policy should guide an organization on AI uses that adhere to the necessary laws and regulations. With generative AI still new in many fields from medicine to law, regulations are rapidly evolving. A landmark provisional deal on AI regulation was reached by the European Parliament and Council on December 8, 2023, with the EU AI Act. These guidelines laid out in this document apply to AI regulation and use within the 27-member EU bloc, as well as to foreign companies that operate within the EU. It is likely the EU AI Act will serve as a model for AI laws around the globe for both individual countries and industries. Countries outside of the EU are drafting their own laws, orders and standards surrounding AI use, so you and your employees will need to do some research on what it and is not allowed in your local area. Always consult your legal counsel about the AI regulations that apply to you. According to EU policymakers involved in writing the AI Act, the goal of the Act is to regulate AI in order to limit its capacity to cause harm. Political agreement covers the use of AI in biometric surveillance such as facial recognition, as well as guidance on regulations for LLMs. The EU AI Act divides AI-based products into levels based on how much risk each product might pose to things like data privacy and protection. Higher-risk products with a greater capacity to cause harm face more stringent rules and regulations. Most current AI uses like systems that make recommendations will not fall into this higher-risk category. Final details are still being worked out, but we do know several important aspects of this Act. All content generated by AI must be clearly identified. Companies must also make it clear when customers are interacting with chatbots, emotion recognition systems, and models using biometric categorization. Developers of foundational models like GPT as well as general-purpose AI systems must create technical documentation and detailed summaries about the training data before they can be released on the market. High-risk AI systems must undergo mandatory rights, impact, and mitigation assessments. Developers will also have to conduct model evaluations, assess and track possible cybersecurity risks, and report serious incidents and breaches to the European Commission. They will also have to use high-quality data sets and have better accompanying documentation. Open source software is excluded from regulations, with some exceptions for software that is considered a high-risk system or is a prohibited application. AI software for manipulative strategies like deepfakes and automated disinformation campaigns, systems exploiting vulnerabilities, and indiscriminate scraping of facial images from the internet or security footage to create facial recognition databases are banned. Additional prohibited applications may be added later. There are exceptions to the facial scraping ban that allow law enforcement and intelligence agencies to use AI applications for facial recognition purposes. The AI Act also lays out financial penalties for companies that violate these regulations, which can be between 5% and 7% of a company's global revenue. More severe violations result in greater financial penalties. This is still a provisional agreement. It must be approved by both the European Parliament and European countries before becoming law. After approval, tech companies will have 2 years to implement the rules, though bans on AI uses start 6 months after the EU AI Act is ratified. Some individual industries have already begun adopting policies about generative AI. They may also have long-standing policies in place about the use of other forms of AI, like machine learning. Some countries have also begun creating policies for specific industries and fields. When in doubt, always check with the experts within your organization about what AI policies exist for your industry. Let's discuss how AI regulations have been evolving in both secondary and post-secondary education. Except where otherwise indicated, the contents of this video are available for use under CC BY 4.0. For students and educators, generative AI's capacity in writing, problem-solving, and conducting research has upended the goals and evaluations of our education system. For instance, ChatGPT-4 has been able to generate college-level essays to earn passing grades at Harvard with minimal prompting for various subjects. Many educational institutions reacted with various policies and adaptations, first to protect the current educational environment, then to consider adapting to generative AI's capacity. In the first few months after ChatGPT was released, many schools and universities restricted the use of AI in education. The two largest public school systems in the United States, New York City Public Schools and Los Angeles Public Schools, and the use of ChatGPT in any schoolwork, declaring that any use of ChatGPT counted as plagiarism. Many universities also followed with similar policies. However, educators soon realized that most students embrace generative AI despite the ban for most assignments. Furthermore, enforcement to bar AI from students, such as using AI detection software or banning AI from school networks, created disparities in students. Teachers noticed that AI detection software biased against the writings of non-native English learners. Children from wealthy families could also access AI through personal smartphones or computers. With these lessons, some educational systems started to embrace the role of AI in students' lives and are developing less restrictive various policies. New York City Public School and Los Angeles Public Schools quietly rolled back their ban, as did many universities. Groups of educators have come together to give guidelines and resources on how to teach with the use of AI, such as the Mississippi AI Institute, MIT's Daily AI Curriculum, and Gettysburg College's Center for Creative Teaching and Learning. Each educational institution and classroom is adapting to AI differently. The Mississippi AI Institute suggested that there are some common questions to consider. How are we inviting students to demonstrate their knowledge, and is writing the only or the best way to do that? For instance, some universities have encouraged the use of in-class assignments, handwritten papers, group work and oral exams. What are our new assignment goals? And how might generative AI help or hinder students in reaching those goals? Some educators want to use AI to help students get over early brainstorming hurdles and want students to focus on deeper critical thinking problems. Many educators have started to develop AI literacy and critical computing curricula to teach students how to use AI effectively and critically. Educators will need to think about what aspects of their lesson goals will be automated in the future, and what are critical and creative skills that students need to hone in on. If we think students will use AI to circumvent learning, why would they want to do that? How can we create conditions that motivate students to learn for themselves? Educators have started to teach young students the limits of AI creativity and what kind of bias is embedded in AI models, which has led students to think more critically about use of AI. What structural conditions would need to change in order for AI to empower rather than threaten teachers and learners? How can we create those conditions? Some teachers have started to actively learn how their students use AI and are using AI to assist with writing their teaching curriculum. Let's look at a specific example of how AI regulations have been evolving in healthcare. Except where otherwise indicated, the contents of this video are available for use under CC BY 4.0. The healthcare industry is a great example where the speed of technology development has led to gaps in regulation, and the US recently released an executive order about creating healthcare-specific AI policies. AI has great promise for revolutionizing healthcare. If implemented properly, it can help deliver higher quality empathetic care, cut costs, aid in patients making informed healthcare decisions, and streamlining drug development. However, implementing AI in healthcare comes with its own challenges. Some potential clinical applications of AI don't fall within the scope of current regulations. Additionally, AI use is at the intersection of multiple laws and regulations, which can impact and slow down implementation. Finally, there is urgent need for expert opinions on how AI models are trained and developed for healthcare use. In the United States, multiple agencies are involved in developing AI regulations. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration regulates how AI-enabled medical devices and software is used. Health and Human Services also has an important role in oversight of some aspects of AI use in healthcare, but their authority is limited. Additionally, there are existing federal and state laws and regulations, such as the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, that impact the use and development of AI. This patchwork landscape of federal and state authority and existing laws has led the American Medical Association to advocate for a whole-government approach to implement a comprehensive set of policies to ensure that the benefits of AI in healthcare are maximized while potential harms are minimized. The AMA and healthcare leaders have highlighted the importance of specialized expertise in the oversight and adoption of AI products in healthcare delivery and operations. For example, Dr. Nigam Shah and colleagues call for the medical community to take the lead in defining how LLMs are trained and developed. They argue that by not asking how the intended medical use can shape the training of LLMs and the chatbots or other applications they power, technology companies are deciding what is right for medicine, instead of people working in medicine. The medical community should actively shape the development of AI-enabled technologies by advocating for clinically informed standards for the training of AI and for the evaluation of the value of AI in real-world healthcare settings. At an institutional level, specialized clinical expertise is required to create policies that align AI adoption with standards for healthcare delivery. Finally, in-depth knowledge of US and other health insurance systems is required to understand how complexity and lack of standardization in this landscape may impact AI adoption in clinical operations. While countries and jurisdictions are developing and passing laws that specifically deal with AI, there are also existing laws around data that should be considered when creating an AI policy. Except where otherwise indicated, the contents of this video are available for use under CC BY 4.0. The thoughts and ideas presented in this course are not to be substituted for legal or ethical advice. They are only meant to give you a starting point for gathering information about a policy and regulations to consider. Existing laws that you should think about when creating AI policies will vary based on your organization and sector, but broadly include regulations about intellectual property, data privacy and protection, and liability. This is not an exhaustive list. This can give you a starting point of what sorts of laws and regulations you might need to consider, but you have to apply your own domain knowledge to determine the specifics for your organization. Always confirm with your legal counsel whether a particular law or regulation applies to you. There are multiple concerns around generative AI and intellectual property rights, especially with regards to copyright and fair use or fair dealing laws. According to Oxford Languages, copyright is the exclusive legal right given to an originator or an assiglee to print, publish, perform, film, or record literary artistic, or musical material and to authorize others to do the same. Fair use and fair dealing are legal doctrines that allows for limited use of copyrighted material without permission under certain circumstances. While fair use and fair dealing exceptions vary from country to country, they broadly allow for non-profit, educational, commentary or criticism, satire, and highly creative works to sample copyrighted material. There are multiple concerns around generative AI and intellectual property rights, especially with regards to copyright and fair use or fair dealing laws. In order for generative AI models to work, they must be trained on vast amounts of data. This might include images, in the case of image generators like DALL-E, Stable Diffusion and Midjourney. It might also include human writing and speech, in the case of LLMs like ChatGPT and Bard. Information about the training data sets for these tools is limited, but they likely include text and images scraped from the internet. There is concern that the text and images gathered for training data included copyrighted and trademarked books, articles, photographs, and artwork. In fact, the CEO of Midjourney has previously confirmed that copyrighted images were included in the Midjourney training data without the consent of the artists. Artists and authors have brought legal action against several AI companies, claiming their rights have been violated by the inclusion of their works in the training data. Some AI companies have argued this use case is covered by fair use agreements. As of November 30, 2023, the legal situation is still being decided. There is also ongoing debate as to whether AI-generated images and text can be copyrighted. While many current copyright laws do not protect works created by machines, how these laws might apply to work that is a collaboration between humans and machines, such as art that includes some AI-generated content, is an area of active discussion. An estimated 42 billion individuals share some form of data about themselves online. This might be information like what they're interested in or information that can be used for identification, like their birth date or where they live, or even financial information. With vast amounts of data about us out there, privacy laws protecting the digital information of internet users are becoming increasingly common. More than 100 countries have some sort of privacy laws in place. Initial concerns around AI and information security focused on bad actors using LLMs to generate malicious code that could be used for cyberattacks, while commercially available chatbots have guardrails in place that are meant to prevent them from being used to create such code. Users were able to come up with workarounds to bypass these safety checks. More recently, people have begun to worry about privacy concerns related to the AI systems themselves. AI systems are trained on vast amounts of data, including data that is covered by existing privacy laws, and many systems also collect and store data from their users, potentially for use as additional training data. Data privacy is especially important to consider when working in fields like healthcare, biomedical research, and education, where personally identifiable data and personal health information are afforded special protections. Special consideration should also be taken when dealing with biometric data or data involving human characteristics gathered from physical or behavioral traits that can be used to identify a single person. This might include things like fingerprints, palm prints, iris scans, facial scans, and voice recognition. DNA can also be considered biometric data when used for forensics. Finally, liability laws might apply. As AI systems become more and more common in everyday life, it is inevitable that some of these systems will fail at some point. Who is liable when AI fails, especially when it fails in a catastrophic manner? The issue of whose fault it is when an AI system fails, and thus who is responsible for the damage, depends greatly on how and why it failed. Blame might lie with the user if the AI was not being used according to instructions, or if limitations were known but ignored, the software developer if the AI product was distributed before being tested thoroughly or before the algorithm was properly tuned, or the designer or manufacturer if the AI design or production was inherently flawed. As a general rule of thumb, when in doubt, talk to your legal counsel. They can offer you the best advice for your organization and your situation. The information in this course is only meant as starting point for you as you create AI guidelines for your organization. You can also seek guidance from your governance and compliance experts.